Hello to everyone and anyone who may be watching. I am the War Squid, and in this video we are going to continue on with our Allied campaign missions. In this video we are going to complete the 10th mission in the Allied campaign. I've already hit continue from the end screen of the previous video, so what I'm going to do now is hit restart rather than continue like we've seen in previous videos. And what that is going to do is play the cutscene that precedes this mission, and then we're going to jump right into it. So it's a little different screen than we're used to seeing, but this is going to be the 10th Allied mission.
No rest for the wicked, Commander. We're both being shipped to Germany. I'm going to Berlin, where we're planning our final thrust. Romanov is no fool. He's hitting us pretty hard over there. His main target is Einstein's Black Forest lab. I want you to hook up with the locals. Keep him the Sam Hill away from that lab. Einstein is our ace in the hole. We can't afford to lose him. Auf Wiedersehen.
Establishing battlefield control. Stand by. Incoming transmission.
I have something very exciting for you, Commander. It is called my Mirage tank. It has the wonderful ability to take on the exact appearance of any organic object it targets. Observe. You see? Isn't she wonderful?
Battle control online.
Yes, sir. Good to go.
So as we saw in that cutscene, General Carville was killed, and I don't think it really gets into a story behind how that happened, how the enemy was able to get that close to him. But in any case, General Carville has been killed, and we'll get into that a little bit later. As far as this mission goes, all we have to do is protect Einstein's laboratory, which is this building, this structure right here. And then in the near future, we're going to see these little outposts be destroyed and some Soviet forces move in, and the objective will be to protect this and at the same time take those forces out. So what we're going to do is we begin this mission with this base that's already set up here, and we also have one additional Allied construction vehicle at our disposal. So I would suggest we move this one here over near Einstein's laboratory and Einstein's base. As you can see, these Soviet forces are beginning to move in, and they're going to make easy work of the outposts that exist there. In any case, what I would suggest is moving that construction vehicle here and building a secondary base that you focus on more so over here next to Einstein's laboratory, so that it's more protected. And if you can, continue building on top of this base here in order to, stave off Soviet forces as they move south on the map and towards Einstein's base. That is perfect as well, but I would prioritize building a completely different base over here more so than anything else, because they're gonna, as you can tell, begin sending forces immediately towards this initial base. So it acts as a buffer more than anything else.
Construction complete. Building. Our base is under attack. Construction complete.
So as you can see, I'm also moving an engineer this direction. This was one of the engineers that we started with. He was just kind of standing in this base here. And the reason I'm doing that is because I'm familiar with this map, and I know that there is a tech building over here that we can capture and use to our advantage.
Building.
But in the meantime, just continue kind of building up bases, separate base rather, over here next to Einstein's laboratory, and kind of staving off these attacks, these Soviet force attacks as they come at you. There are going to be several colors of Soviet units. There's red and an orange and yellow and so on and so forth. because there are several bases that they've constructed.
Construction complete.
Also got these V3 rockets attacking me, and I'm able
Unit
to
lost.
stave that off by with this Patriot missile that's here for me.
Ready to roll. Closing in. Commencing assault.
But long story short, we have this base that's already set up for us here, and it's not vital necessarily to ensuring that that base does not get destroyed, but
Construction
if you
options.
can protect it,
Building.
go ahead and do so. But the most important aspect, or the easiest path to victory I've found, is taking that mobile construction
building
vehicle that you have at your disposal and
Construction
moving that
Building.
closer to Einstein's laboratory,
Insufficient funds.
and then constructing a base from there. And you'll notice right off the bat you actually aren't given an ore refinery. So there was no ore refinery, at least I don't think so, unless somehow they destroyed it and it was right there. But if you don't realize that, which I honestly didn't, you will begin constructing things and you won't have any money coming in. So I do have one now over in this other base, so we're just going to have to wait
Destination, Commander.
for a little bit until some funds are built up. So I also captured this tech building over here, over on this west side of the map, I guess we would call it, and that is helpful to you because there's a lot of gold right here. And so what I'm going to try to do is construct another ore refinery and put it right here, so
complete.
I'm having resources come in
Destination, Commander.
from multiple areas as well. And then I would like to get one right here
What
on top of
does
that.
this button do?
Please don't touch the auxiliary controls, Professor. They notify the
Need
commander of
air.
important events.
Vehicle ready.
So right now it's slow going a little bit because we just have to wait until our resources kind of
Yes, sir.
are built back up a little bit. It does also seem that the attacks from the Soviet forces have slowed down,
Low drag. Forward.
so they
Good
send
to
an
go.
initial
On our way, sir.
volley in your
Good to go.
direction.
Securing position.
And then once
High
you
speed, low securing position. Good to go.
Take
Good
care
to
of those
go.
guys. It does
Ready to
seem
roll.
to
Go.
slow down at least for a little bit.
Yes,
We're
sir.
going to see if that
Outstanding. Securing
continues.
position. Ready to roll.
But there will be...
Ready to roll. Securing position. High speed, low drag.
There they are. Some more forces coming eventually, I'm sure.
Yes, sir. Outstanding. High speed.
And we have a
low
couple new
drag.
units available to us, as
On
you
our
can
way,
see.
sir.
They talked about this in the cutscene just before or as the mission was starting.
High
So
speed,
these
low
guys here
drag.
are known as Mirage tanks, and
Securing
the
position.
enemy
Outstanding.
can't see
Fire
them,
zone confirmed.
is the kicker for that. So if you...
Unit reporting.
It depends on how you utilize them. So as I'm driving up to this squad of Soviet infantry units, technically speaking, they can see those,
Ready to roll.
the AI, so to speak, or if you were playing an exhibition match against an online opponent, your opponent could see these as they're moving around. They appear just like that when they're in motion, but if you simply park them right here and then leave them be,
Construction complete.
and your opponent was making his way south on the map, he wouldn't see those any differently than those trees right here would appear. So they do disguise themselves as long as you leave them to sit still, and you'll see them bounce back and forth between the vehicle unit and the tree, such as right there. And that is just for you. That is so that you can see that those are your tanks. All that your enemy will see is the tree 100% of the time. So they flash back and forth because we're the owner of the tank. And so that is just so that we know that's not a tree, that's our tank.
Yes, sir.
But like I said, your opponent would only see trees.
Yes, sir. Unit reporting.
So I got my second
Yes,
ore
sir.
refinery built. So I'm going to start bringing in some money from
Ready to roll. On our way, sir.
2 spots
On our
now.
way, sir.
And now you'll see, I'm not sure that we've seen this either. This is known as an Apocalypse tank
Fire zone.
from the Soviet side of things. And they are,
Commander, look out! They are over here!
Professor, please stay off this channel.
Ready to
they're
roll.
very powerful as well. They didn't really utilize them all that well during that attack right there.
On our
But
way,
they
sir.
have twin cannons on them, so they have a lot of firepower associated with them.
Building.
And they can be utilized. It's the Soviet counterpart to, I would argue, the Allied Prism tank, which we saw a couple missions ago. And I think we'll be able to utilize those once I build a battle lab on this mission as well. But it's that specialty tank that the Soviets have.
Our base is under attack.
So that either side has a specialty tank, one of which for the
Construction
Allies
complete.
is the Prism tank, and then the Soviets'
Building.
counterpart is that Apocalypse tank.
Need a repair?
So if utilized well, they can be pretty devastating to your base. We've got these Prism towers stacked up here, so we're in pretty good shape because the Prism towers do pretty well defending against all tank units,
Construction
so long as you
complete.
have multiple and they kind of feed off of each other. And that applies to the Apocalypse tanks as well. So we're in pretty good shape to defend against them. But if we're not careful
Vehicle ready.
and we don't see them coming, and they were utilized well, technically they could pretty easily come into this side of our base or something
Construction
similar to that.
complete. Building.
But at the moment, what I'm going to focus on doing is just building up some defenses around this base here. So Einstein's laboratory on this mission is up on this hill. So the only way to access it from the ground is right here. So if you build up your defenses kind of at this, where the hill allows you to come up onto this raised area,
Construction complete.
and we build some prism towers here, like a wall of prism towers, there's
Building.
very little that the opponent can do to get past that.
Yes, sir. Securing position.
Especially if they're
Securing
just going
position.
to only utilize the tactic of rushing straight at you, kind of like they did with these Apocalypse tanks over here.
Construction complete.
It's not really going to be a difficult thing to stave off your opponent coming up onto this cliff
Yes,
here.
Building.
And we are doing pretty
sir.
well with the
Outstanding.
resources now that we've got
Destination, Commander? Yes, sir.
multiple
Bound
ore
for
refineries
high-speed, low
and
drag.
ore
Securing
miners
position. Good to go.
working for us here, but I am going to build one more and put it right here to hopefully take advantage of some of this gold that's present directly next to this base
High
here.
speed, low drag. Good to go. On our way, sir.
And in the meantime as
Unit
well,
report.
just use
High
these
speed,
Mirage
low
tanks to
drag.
explore some of this
Bound
unrevealed
for- on our way,
terrain
sir. On our way, sir. Securing
directly
position.
nearby these bases I have constructed.
Construction complete.
Commencing assault. Fire zone confirmed. Securing position. Bound forward. Closing in. Outstanding. Securing position. Outstanding. Bound forward. Bound forward.
Building. On hold. Cancelled. Building.
Need a repair?
And I'm going to get these guys
Yes, sir.
some repairs
Outstanding.
with my IFV, and
I
I'm going to
have the
utilize this
tools.
engineer inside that IFV. As we've seen in previous
Unit
missions,
ready.
we're going to use that to repair some of our tanks that are
Vehicle ready.
damaged.
I have
All you
the
got to do is
tools.
stick that
Moving.
engineer in there like we've seen. That'll turn
Ready to
that
roll.
into that repair hook.
Yes, sir. Commencing assault.
And that's all there is to it. Move him close to these tanks, and that's going to repair them right up. I've got enough resources here. I'm going to
Building.
construct my
Destination,
battle lab
Commander?
at this point as well. Go ahead and try
Vehicle
to
ready.
start
Yes, sir.
getting some
Driver
offensive
up.
firepower put together to make a push. Before I do that, I would
Destination,
like
Commander?
some
New rally point
unrevealed
established.
terrain, some more
Building.
unrevealed terrain to be pushed back here a little bit. So I'm going to take another IFV and just start
Unit ready.
Ready to
moving
roll.
towards the
go.
northeast end of this
On our
map
way,
here,
sir.
try and get some of
Construction
this terrain
complete.
explored so I know what I'm looking at.
Sir, if you build and deploy a spy satellite, you will be able to see the
Securing
entire
position.
combat
Good to go.
Okay,
Bound
so I take that
forward.
back. I'm not going to explore any of this unrevealed terrain, and I will tell you why. So
Outstanding.
the Allied faction on this game has one defense. It's considered a defensive structure, even though it doesn't really have anything to do with defense, which we'll see in a second. But this spy satellite uplink that you'll see on the right side of your screen, I would argue is one of the most overpowered features that the game has to offer, and it's not available to the Soviet forces. It's only the Allied forces. So if we construct
Building.
this, we're going to be able to see what that does for us.
Destination,
And
Commander?
it's completely it's a total game changer for what you can do
Ready to roll. Yes, sir.
offensively
High speed, low drag. Good to go.
and defensively, technically, in terms of preparation for what may be coming at you, what your enemy may be planning. This is huge.
Construction complete.
So if I take my spy satellite and I'm just going to put it right there, immediately, as you can see, the entire map is revealed to me. So all that unrevealed terrain is gone, and I can simply click anywhere, and it's all revealed to me. I can see every square inch of the map, just like that. And like I mentioned, the Soviet forces do not have that available to them, so that's exclusively an Allied faction advantage, and that I utilize that as quickly as I can anytime that I'm playing this and I'm on an exhibition match or an online match playing as the Allied forces. We'll see later on that the Allied forces have another defensive structure called a gap generator that can make a circle, I don't know exactly how big, but that can block your spy satellite so that a very select spot on the map would still be unrevealed terrain, but that is the only thing that can be utilized to counteract the spy satellite, and the Soviets don't have any technology that can counteract the spy satellite. So if you're playing against a Soviet opponent, either in an exhibition match, campaign match, online match, whatever the case may be, and you go ahead and build that spy satellite, you're just going to be able to see everything. You can see what forces they may be building up, what they may be planning, what their defensive structures look like, and so on and so forth. Really, whatever angle you want to take for what that gives you as an advantage, it we can look at it many different ways, but that is just a major advantage to us. As we can see, none of these bases are particularly heavy on defense or units, so we're going to probably be able to destroy them pretty quickly once we mount an offensive force here. And what I'm going to do is just build up a force of 5 prism tanks, and we're going to see where that gets us. I'll probably even send these Mirage tanks with them just to stave off anything that may come towards the prism tanks. But so far, based on what I'm seeing, I have reason to be pretty optimistic that that force of 5 prism tanks can probably take out the entirety of the bases that the opponent has put together here. But we'll find out. There is a lot of gold on this map. As you can see, I'm not sure that I've touched on this in any previous mission yet, but the map will have lighter spots, as you can see, just slightly lighter than the surrounding terrain. So like if you see my cursor here, for example, in that map, right here where it turns lighter, if I click right there, that is a patch of gold. And you'll see that that is the case anywhere where you see a lighter patch of terrain on your map. So if I click right there, that's going to be a field of gold here. And so on and so forth. Right there, that map is lighter because of gold, 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 and so on and so forth. So you can see where these patches of gold kind of are present throughout large portions of the map. I think trees also show up as lighter. That's why you see a little bit spottier patches kind of right here. But other than that, that is mainly an indicator of some resources that are available to you. And there's also a tech, well, not even a tech, but an abandoned ore refinery in the bottom right corner that you could take over and utilize if you wanted. I'm not going to do that. Just, well, actually, you know what? I got an engineer in this IFV already. I might as well send him down here. Take that over just because. And it looks like my force is built up here, so what I'm going to do is start moving them towards this dark orange base, and we're going to go from there and see how effective that can be.
Vehicle ready. I've got the plans right here.
Construction complete.
Oh, and that does give you a box as well, which I'm assuming is going to be money. We're going to find out.
Yes, sir. Bound forward.
Oh, ironically, it's a chrono miner. So you can take over this structure if you so choose in the bottom right corner. That's going to give you another ore refinery, and then I'm not sure if that box always contains a chrono miner or if that was just really super lucky. But that was such a coincidence that I imagine there's always a chrono miner in the box there, so you can get set up with yet another ore refinery right there, producing or gathering resources for you, rather, which is good. So I would say that that is definitely one of the keys to this mission, would be building multiple resource gatherers, multiple ore refineries, and spreading those out across the map. Like we touched on a minute ago, there's so many patches of gold on this map that the more you can spread out safely, not necessarily super close to the opponent's base, but down here next to Einstein's laboratory, even right here with this tech building here, down here in the bottom right corner of the map, and so on. The more resource gatherers you can have out there is going to be crucial to finding success on this campaign mission. And if you remember from one of our previous videos, these prism tanks are pretty intense offensively. They shoot a beam of light, obviously, a laser weapon, and that is just going to absolutely devastate your opponent's base. And these, in my experience, I utilize these often, pretty much regardless of what version of the game I'm playing, what I'm doing. So if it's an exhibition match, campaign match, online match, I rely heavily on these units here. You'll notice a couple things. There's not really anything that can get close to them. They're just quickly taking out infantry units, and when they're shooting at infantry units, you'll also notice that their beam seems to ricochet and hit multiple opponents. So if I only utilize one of them against this group of infantry units here. Let's take these guys out first. So if I take one and I take the other 4 away, so that we know that there's no way that we're mistaken here. And you see when he fires upon one of these infantry units, we also get that ricochet effect where that beam of energy, that energy weapon, hits the nearby infantry units as well. So it does splash damage of sorts. It can really just quickly take out an entire base with little to no issue. They're not quite as strong against like tanks of any kind, vehicles of any kind. If you get enough of them together, so I have 5 here obviously, you can, for the most part, take out any vehicles that they send your way, but that is something to be wary of if you utilize these vehicles, is that if the opponent, for example, had Rhino tanks coming in your direction, the prism tanks wouldn't do quite as well with those in comparison to how they do with infantry. See, now they sent a bunch of war miners at us, and I think that might actually get them in some trouble here.
Ready to roll. Bound forward.
Unit promoted.
Driver up. Vehicle ready.
So, as you can see, they struggle a little bit with these war miners. I was able to retreat a little bit just in time before I lost any of them, but as you can see with this one here in the middle, he got very close when they sent multiple war miners at me with those guns on the top. So they are susceptible to other vehicles attacking them. You'll have to be careful of that. But other than that, for the most part, they're very effective, almost overpowered again. I've used that word for a couple different things here in this particular mission, but like I said, I utilize these all the time. I find that once I can build a force of, 4 or 5 of these and go on an offensive kind of focus, you can 9 times out of 10 win the entire mission with just those. So definitely something to utilize and take advantage of here.
Unit reporting. Fire zone vehicle ready. Driver up. Weapon ready. Commencing assault.
Yeah, certainly more effective against infantry units. As you can see, they sent a large group at me that time, and these guys had no problem with them.
Weapon ready. Closing in.
We've got another structure here that I don't think we've seen before from the Soviet standpoint. We got this nuclear reactor,
Fire zone confirmed.
and that causes a large field of let's call it radiation. I don't know if that's the proper term necessarily, but you'll see the ground is going to turn a bright, almost neon green color. That's going to last for, I don't know, maybe 10 seconds, 15 seconds after we destroy this nuclear reactor. And that does have the ability to cause damage to vehicles, and it really quickly will take out infantry units. So, for example, if I took a whole group of GIs, for example, ran them right up next to this nuclear reactor and used them to destroy it, it would in turn kill all those GIs. Just like that. As you can see. So you'll have to be careful. I think that's the first time we've seen that structure be utilized by our opponent. But if you do come across that, you'll have to be careful of what units you use to take them out. And they're going to sell on us and send a large force our direction, just like the last base did. Going to be weary most of all of these war miners here. The infantry doesn't scare me quite as much. And just like that, with just this force, we've now taken out 2 of the 3 Soviet bases here. And we have 1 remaining.
Securing position.
So we're just going to keep on carrying on here.
Closing in.
And this goes without saying at this point, but another aspect is the range of these things. They have the ability to fire outside the range of virtually any base defense. I don't even think there are any that can target them as long as you keep them out of the range. So for example, I could drive right up to this Tesla coil and destroy it from there with my prism tanks here, but they can hit that from well beyond its that defensive structure's range. So there's really no reason to get up close and personal with anything. And the same can't be said about the Soviet Apocalypse tank, for example. That guy has to drive up close to the structures he's targeting, and so he doesn't have that same advantage. I think he's got a little bit, well, a significant advantage when it comes to health. So that's kind of where he has the advantage there as the Soviet counterpart of specialty tank, but I much prefer these prism tanks here simply for the fact that we have a significant range advantage when using it against pretty much any base defense. And as you can see from what we've been able to do in this mission here, they just have absolutely devastating offensive potential. Or just, like I mentioned, you can simply build up a force of those and use that to just annihilate your enemy completely. Finish whatever campaign objective you may have, or finish off your opponent in an exhibition or online match. With relative ease. We were able to just take out, complete this entire mission, take out 3 bases with 5 prism tanks. So as you can see, the par time in the bottom left corner there was an hour for this mission. We were able to do it in less than 30 seconds just by utilizing those prism tanks. So definitely a huge advantage for the Allied forces, having those at your disposal. Something I would definitely recommend taking advantage of if you decide to play this game. So that's all for this video. That is the 10th Allied mission campaign, and we'll see you in the next one.